came to the Council 2 years ago, one of the first issues we tackled was the DPR case, missile and nuclear issues. Our term on the Council started and is ending with the North Korean issues. This must be just a coincidence. But I am saying this with a heavy heart. For South Koreans, people in North Korea are not just anybody's. Millions of South Koreans still have our family members and relatives living in the North. Even though we never hear from them, even though by now the pain of separation has become a cold fact of life, just a few hundred kilometers away from where we live. We cannot read what is described in the COI report without it breaking our hearts. We cannot listen to stories of North Korean defectors without sharing in their tears, without feeling as if we are there with them, experiencing the tragedies. We only hope that one day in the future, when we look back on what we did today, we will be able to say that we did the right thing for the people of North Korea, for the lives of every man and woman, boy and girl, who has the same human rights as the rest of us. Thank you.
Living in North Korea is not like living in another country. It's more like living in another universe. I will never truly be free of its gravity, no matter how far I journey. On the outside, I might look normal, but inside, I'm suffering from unspeakable pain. Even when I'm enjoying a delicious meal or sipping a tea on a beautiful day, I couldn't really enjoy or relax. Instead, I feel guilty because I think about my family and friends struggling inside North Korea. I am very fortunate that I escaped my homeland while millions of other North Koreans are living in a virtual prison even today and die without ever knowing about the truth or freedom or human rights. For me to enjoy these freedoms, I had to pay an enormous price. I lost all my relatives, my friends, and I had to be separate from my family for so many years. I left behind 17 years of my memories, yet the pain stays with me wherever I go. It's especially hard during the holidays or when I see a big family enjoying a nice meal, because I always have empty place at my table, and when I imagine my relatives sitting there, I feel still tears filling my eyes. It's even more painful for my mom, because she came from such a close family and had to leave all her brothers and sisters behind forever. I spent countless nights crying my eyes out. I hated myself so much. And as I self-imposed punishment, I've never celebrated my birthday since I left North Korea. I hated any holidays because it reminded me how alone I was and how much I gave up to be where I am. I feel a strong obligation to tell the world about the truth about my country and the shocking, 'orwellian 'Orwellian' nightmare that North Korean people face. This is in the hope that one day the horrible tyranny that afflicts my homeland will end, despite the risks my personal security. When I was when I was a young girl in North Korea, I woke up one night choking on big black smoke, and my parents screamed at me and to my younger brother to get out of our homes, as it was consumed by a huge fire. Outside, my brother and I was continued to choking. Our father did not check to see if we were okay. Instead, he immediately ran back inside the home and risked his life to save all the most important possessions, portraits of two dictators. If he failed to save them, he would have been punished, but he was praised, not for rescuing his own children, but to saving the images of our dear leaders. But nobody, including myself, thought this was nor was it strange to see the government officials with white gloves would come to every North Korean house and come to check the dust on the pictures of the dictators. But after I escaped the country, I realized that these are only a small examples of how North Koreans are tragically oppressed and brainwashed. The world can't understand why North Korean people were crying after all dictator Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il died during his funeral. But those who grew up there, we completely understand that. From the moment we were born, we started learning the words about Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. And the first sentence we learned was, "Thank you so much to our dear General Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il." That's the first sentence we learned in North Korea. So they are considered the top in my life than my parents. So whenever I received a gift or there's something good things happened in my life, I just bought to their pictures, which hang in every North Korean's home. And I believed every good thing it came from them, not from my parents. But until I was 15, I didn't think Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il was a human. But in 1994, when Kim Il-sung died, our first founder, in his funeral, I realized he might be human, because God couldn't die, and then more than 90% of North Korean citizens were shocked by his death. Perhaps the most shocking examples of the North Korean regime's manipulation is the dictator's pleasure group. Young North Korean girls are recruited from from high school around the country every year to serve our dear leader, and as the government agents, officials inspect them like animals. Everything on the young girls is measured, including legs, breasts, arms, even waist, stomach, everywhere. And my friend's sister was beautiful and dreamed to be selected, and then as she was chosen at the first round every time, but in the end she was failed because of her height. So her mom fed her tons of beans because she believed the bean can make her grow taller, but of course it did not work at all. And then my friend's sister was devastated in the end, and then feel sick of beans eating that. But actually the chosen girls are lucky. I mean, the chosen girl, her sister was lucky to be fair, because the chosen girls are taken from their hometown to serve our dear leader and the regime, and many learn the horrifying reality. They are actually forced into sexual slavery. One of the most important things that North Korean people have to learn is that we can't trust anyone, not even husband and wife. Only I could trust my parents, because we have to criticize everyone when we were growing up, classmates, neighbors, friends. There's no real friends. And then we are spying on each other, and we believed that's the only way to loyal to our dear leader. We didn't know that's bad things to do, but we believed it's a good thing. One of my school classmates learned this the hard way after he invited his friends to his family, and his friends immediately reported to our teacher saying he saw too many nice things in his home suddenly, which he didn't see in the past. And then the government officials started investigating, and then soon they found out that one of the family members were missing and they escaped the country and was sending money. So the whole family was punished as traitors. Speaking out against the regime is also unthinkable. My friend's father said simply to his best friend while they're having echo at night. And then he said, "This system is unfair." He only said that words, but soon after, his whole family disappeared in the middle of the night. They are just one of the many families sent to North Korea's prison camp, where over 100,000 people continue to suffer forced labor, torture, and death. North Koreans are taught to hate these so-called traitors, and I believed that the people in prison camp and the publicly executed deserve to be punished. I didn't know that many offenses for public executions are insane, such as killing a cow, stealing food to feed his starving family, practicing religion, helping people escaping the country, making contact with South Koreans, and even watching foreign media. I also didn't know it's wrong that young children are forced to attend the public executions. It's mandatory to watch public execution in North Korea, and we grew up with the constant public executions. I first saw one at age 7 as I watched a man was hanging by his neck under a railroad bridge. And the other execution was in 1994 during the famine, when the authorities shot his head. When his head was exploded in front of his family. Attendance, yes, was mandatory, and even though the people who saw the public execution were usually terrified. We accepted the execution as part of our life automatically, since we didn't know anything the concept of human rights. The executions are a powerful way to remind the people that we shouldn't do anything against our government. Starvation has killed at least more than 1 million North Korean people. By the mid-1990s, I began to realize that people around me were even suffering. They were really suffering. I read a shocking letter from a woman about her whole family was dying because they didn't have any food for weeks. They had no energy and no health, so they were lying on the floor together and waiting to die. And their bodies were so emaciated, and she said, by the time when you read this letter, you will not exist in this world. This was the first time I realized that people in my country were suffering. Also, I saw a lifeless woman lying on the ground while an emaciated child in her arms just helplessly watched her mother's face. And so many people were watching that, but nobody helped them at the time. I was so sad for them, and I placed some money in the child's lap, but I knew it wouldn't help. During the famine, if someone carrying a dead dog on the street, people look at the person enviously because they wanted to eat the dog, but they didn't even stop look at the dead bodies on the street. Especially if we go to under the bridge or near the train station, we could easily see those bodies, and the bodies weren't removed. So the smells of decomposing flesh was everywhere. Our city was on the border with China, so we had many visitors from China every day. So if we don't remove those bodies, the country, North Korea would look strange for that. So at that time, there's certain people's job is to get rid of those bodies, and they used hand carts to get rid of it. And they stacked the bodies in piles every time, and there's one time a man didn't die yet, but they put him among the dead bodies. News or information about anything outside North Korea wasn't available, but I was lucky to live right next to the Chinese border. Occasionally, our television could pick up a few Chinese TV signals, and as I watched secretly, I became overwhelmed with curiosity. I blocked the window with thick blankets and to prevent lights, because the government officials, they're randomly checking any house if they see lights at night. And then the Chinese TV completely transformed my life. Surrounded by darkness, poverty, and starvation every night, and I often gazed across the river at China's brilliant street lights and neon signs, and I gradually realized that my country maybe is not the best in the world, and I had been lied to my whole life. After this revelation, I was determined to leave North Korea and find out the truth about the outside world. But as a young, naive girl, I could have never imagined that I would be separated from my family for so long, nor could I have realized that I would have to avoid the bright new world in China and live in the shadows. I was hunted by the Chinese authorities simply because I was from North Korea. And I was even captured by the Chinese police and narrowly avoided being repatriated to North Korea by convincing them that I was actually a Chinese citizen. And due to all the dangers surrounding me that I had to change, to protect my identity, I had to change my name so many times. So I became the girl with the 7 names. I recently published my memoir, which is now available in 25 countries and 18 languages. After arriving in China, I finally began to learn the truth of my country. Although I began to get a sense of freedom in China, I was also terrified because the Chinese government treating North Korean defectors very badly. Before I escaping the country, because I was living right next to the border, I was standing on North Korean side. I was staring at China for many years, and I was grew up with watching it because, as I said, just brilliant street lights and neon signs, and Chinese people were dancing, singing, bringing some nice food on the riverside when they have a picnic, everything. I just feel like if I cross the border into China, what real life I can see over the mountains. And then in the end, after I escaped the country, and when I finally returned to Chinese side, after escaping many years later, I went to the border across my hometown where I can't cross back to North Korea, but I was standing in Chinese side and I was looking at North Korea and I was very sad. It was nighttime. First night was I can't imagine if there's another country existed in front of me, it's completely black, nothing. It means we were suffering from serious power shortages. But many years later, still, it was exactly the same before I was leaving. And I feel really sad because I never see my country from Chinese side. And then that was the first scene I saw. And daytime, when I was standing on the border, I feel like if I reach my arm, I can't really reach. I can't reach there immediately. It's just it's only like less than 10 meters border, the length between. But even though that's really short, where there's my mom, my brother, my all relatives, all my friends, all my memories there, but I feel that I can't go. So even though it's just so close in front of me, but when I realized that I can't reach there, that only I reach there in my dream every night, that was really hurt me even today. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. I was surprised at your speech. I heard two things. One thing is your true story, but the unbelievable but true story. And the other one is your fluent English. Your English is much better than that of the Korean migrant living in Auckland, of New Zealand. Yes. I think you as the North Korea defector, you can actively contribute to liberate the Korean from North Korea. And do you have any plan to do so? To liberate the North Korea? Do you have any plan?
Yeah. Actually, I have a security problem right now. It's really started the moment I published my memoir. But I am a woman and sometimes I'm scared about what I'm doing. When I heard from the source screen agent that I was on the targeting list, what I have to be careful every time. It's just scary, but I know clearly what I'm doing because our story, the North Korean defectors tragedy. Moreover, the North Korean people were suffering nearly 70 years, but the outside world didn't know about that, didn't pay attention for our tragedy. And defectors have been fleeing the country since 20 years ago. But our tragedy, it's only became spotlighted like only a few years ago from the outside world. So I doing this with my responsibility, and because while the regime commit horrible things, even today, I will keep doing what I'm doing. And because also, besides speaking against the tyranny, the regime, I just finished my university, actually technically last February, and right now I'm planning to start real NGO to use my connections to help really those who are in suffering, either in China and even in South Korea, moreover in North Korea, because my big goal is to make many North Koreans escape the country. Of course, I know some South Koreans also, they don't want many North Koreans to come to South Korea, but I was planning to how to mobilize those North Korean women in North Korea, make them escape the country, because 70 to 80% are female right now, the defectors, because in North Korea, actually many people ask me why 70 to 80% are female defectors, because in North Korea, always men considered very high than women. So while men had to work in the state-run company or factory, women have to stay at home, support their husband and their children, because they have no boys. And when the famine started, the men still had to go to work, even though they had nothing to pay from the government. But they had to work there. If they don't go to company, they will be in jail, labor camp. So the women started to earn money in the market to support their family members. And then that made them more free to leave the country, the men. And then they can work at the restaurant, because many of them believed they can work at the restaurant in China. But actually, as I said in the speech, they were sold. And so if I can mobilize the North Korean women inside North Korea who's running all the black market inside North Korea, that will be a huge goal to me. And then the defectors, 30,000 defectors are hiding in China, and that the situation is very horrible. So not only I'm criticizing Chinese government officially, publicly, but also I want to get the support from Chinese people in mainland, because many Chinese also they don't know actually what's going on between their government and between defectors. So I want to mobilize them to, help North Korean defectors, and moreover, defectors living in South Korea. They are really suffering. I feel really sorry whenever I hear or see the defectors are suicided. Because for North Korean defectors, I can't understand when I hear the defectors are suiciding. Because we suffered a lot than any human being in this world. Many defectors repatriate from North Korea repatriate from China back to North Korea several times, some defectors, and that means they were suffered horrible torture many times, but they endured everything. And then in the end, in the long epic journey, they just came to South Korea, but after they come to South Korea, they ended their life. So in South Korea, we were provided at least the citizenship and place to live and the support, some very basic support from the government. But it's just hard to believe why they're suicide. That's why it's really hurt. And I think the defectors, when we suffer that much from outside, at least we had one hope, only one hope. The hope is, no matter what happens, once we get to the South Korea or motherland, South Korea, we will be okay. And then the struggling will be finished. I think they only believed that, which I believed the same way. And then in the end, with that hope, when they arrived in South Korea, but the reality is hugely different. And that's why they lost the hope, and there's no more hope they can have. That's why I think they are finishing their life. That's why I hope, especially the woman in 50s or 60s who has no ability to work or earn money, so I want to help them. So that's my main goal right now. Thank you.
We've seen in history how different unifications occurred in Germany and things like the breakup of apartheid in South Africa. What do you believe in terms of the future that the world could do to either influence the North Korean government through either foreign visits, or how long the regime do you think will possibly exist before it is eventually unified or is possibly unified?
Yeah, that's a very common question, but really difficult to answer. In the past, many people predicted the German unification. I mean, people never couldn't predict the German unification, but it did happen. And over the time, many people predicted the Korean unification, but which never happened. But one time, our previous president Lee Myung-bak, he said the unification will come something, I don't know in Korean, 통일이 도덕고양이처럼 찾아온다? What's in English?
The unification will come like a robot at night. It will just come.
And then when he said that, I was laughing actually. I said, oh, don't compare North Korean and South Korea's unification with German unification. It's impossible. And then, but right now I somehow agree his point, because when Kim Jong-il, our second dictator, who died in 2011, right before he died, like 1 month before, we never expected he gonna die that soon, because he ate all nice things himself. And then all defectors, when we were gathering together, we even was talking about when he gonna be died. And then we said, maybe, everybody predicted, maybe in 10 years later at the latest he can die. But 1 month later he died. So it was really shocking to us. So right now, he's the son, Kim Jong-un. What he's doing is totally insane, killing even his own uncles, and then killing to preserve his positions. He's removing so many high-ranking officials or changing the positions, keeping going, and which is it's telling us his status is unstable. So I think. And then actually the media didn't say that much about the reality, but there are many high-ranking officers are fleeing the country right now, which is a top secret. And it means I can have another hope. Maybe the unification I predicted, or maybe not, I don't know unification, but the collapse of North Korea will be happened very early than I expected. So certainly I think I can see within at least 20 years will happen something. If not, at least I believe that we can have a better relationship between North Korea and South Korea. At least we can freely go and together. I think that's the first step before unification should happen.